We are in a series entitled 3 P's to Peak Performance. In the first episode, I shared the first P word and talked about the power of presence, or how you show up each day. In this episode, I'm going to share another P word that can help you perform at your best in sports, business, and life. And that word is process. When I speak to teams and coach individual athletes, as well as business leaders and entrepreneurs, I always summarize the 5 keys to a championship mindset into presence and process. We go deeper into these concepts, but these 2 P words provide a great summary of all the things that are important and essential in accomplishing your goals and bringing your best to the moment. Presence is how you decide to show up. Process is how you show out, as some of my athletes like to say, or how you bring your best to the moment. We all want the outcome or to realize the goal, but the only way the goal is reached is through focusing on the process to achieve it. Here are 2 of our championship mindset keys that relate to process that I want to share with you today. First, you must focus on what you can control. When you think about your last week or the last game you played in, were there moments when you focused on what you could not control? Sometimes this happens before we even get to the office, school, or the practice or the game. A breaking news alert comes across our phones that involves something halfway around the world, and we become worried about that. And even though it may not pertain to us and we can't do anything about it, we're still worried about it. A referee makes a bad call, or you miss an opportunity to score or make a play, and you continue to dwell and linger in a moment you can do nothing about, instead of leaning into the present moment. These are all types of distractions, people, and events that can compete for our attention and focus and prevent us from focusing on the keys to success and the things we can influence and control. We cannot control other people or outcomes, but we can control our energy, our effort, and our attitude. We can control our response and our communication. I often tell my athletes to focus on what you can control, influence what you can, and flush the rest. There are 2 axioms that involve focusing on what you can control that I also want to share. The first one is what you choose to focus on magnifies in size. If you choose to focus on the obstacle, distraction, or competition, they will get bigger and bigger in your mind. If you choose to focus on the opportunity, the target, and the goal, they will become bigger and clearer in your mind. You have a choice, and realizing that you have a choice about what you focus on is powerful. We don't just have to react to events or situations. We can reflect on the moment, process our thoughts and feelings, and choose a better response. And when we do this, we put ourselves in a better mindset to perform at our best and not allow the valley moment to drag us into a downward mental and often emotional spiral, preventing us from being present in future moments. The second axiom related to focusing on what you can control is recognizing that every action begins with a thought. So the key question is, what thoughts are you thinking before you go into a practice or game or competition? What thoughts are you thinking before you step into a client meeting? What thoughts are you thinking before you have a conversation with your friends and family? And what thoughts are you thinking before you begin your day? And how are you nurturing the right thoughts? What content are you consuming? And are you renewing your mind to positive and productive thoughts that will help you perform at your best in the moment? Another key championship mindset principle related to process, what we're talking about today, is being outcome-driven and process-focused, which is something I've talked a lot about on other podcast episodes and something I work a lot with the athletes that I coach. When I talk about this principle, I often mention 3 words: worry, focus, and obsess. We want to achieve the goal, but our mind can drift in either worrying about circumstances that may prevent us from accomplishing the goal or obsessing desperately over the outcome where we don't consider the process to arrive at the outcome. A desperate mindset and posture can cause you to tense up mentally and then physically, which prevents you from playing loose, fierce, and free in sports or unleashing your best in other aspects of life. A calm and focused spirit is so much better than a posture of panic and trying to control and force outcomes. Focusing on the process to achieve the outcome is the key. When I'm coaching someone, we break this down into tangible things that they can focus on and do in the moment to be most successful. It usually involves a simplified version of the steps to success and typically can be discovered by reflecting on your best performances. You might want to try this and try writing in a journal about some of the moments where you were at your best and what led to that success, and then write down some key bullet points to complete the phrase, I am at my best when I do these things. One final thought on the principle of being outcome-driven and process-focused. These two things go together and are connected. It is not be outcome-driven or process-focused. The and is a crucial conjunction. You want to declare the goal or outcome and be determined in its pursuit. And you want to recognize that the key to accomplishing the goal is not by trying to control outcomes, but focusing on the process to achieve the outcome. And by focusing on the process, it will also help you to play, lead, and become more patient, calm, and stress-free. Discovering and discerning how you perform at your best is an important part of this process. You can't just hope to capture or recapture some mysterious flow state or wonder, how do I get in the zone? Reflecting on and documenting the keys to success, your keys to success, will help you not only be more consistent in the process, but also help you focus on what matters most in the moment. Here's some final encouragement to you as you begin your week that I want to offer as I close out this podcast. As a leader, consider your strengths, the strengths of your people, and what people need from you this week, and then focus on that to get the project done. As an athlete, stop stressing about the metrics and goals you're trying so desperately to achieve and control, and learn about and focus on the process to impact and achieve those outcomes. And as a parent, if you're a parent, focusing on investing in your sons and daughters with daily deposits of the right principles and encouragement through your actions and your words will help realize a return for generations to come. And as I said in the first episode of this podcast series, there is power in choosing the right presence in how you will show up today and this week. There is also a great reward for focusing on the right process to not only achieve the outcomes you're pursuing, but to become the person that God created you to be. I love what Paul, inspired by the Holy Spirit, says in Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 in the Bible. Let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. I'm praying that you run your race down the right path that God has purposely provided for you, and that you always make the most of your moments.